Welcome back to Bunny Banter, the first and only podcast for everything Killer Bunnies. I'm your host, Matt, here with co-host Mikey.
Hello.
And we have two guests today. You probably haven't heard of them. Let's see, I think their names were Jeff and Jonathan?
Oh, are we on? Oh, we're on. Hi. Hi, everybody. Jeff Bellinger here, talking to you from San Diego, California, and seated next to me is
Jonathan Young.
also in San Diego.
I'm also in San Diego, California. Hopefully, if I'm sitting next to you.
Well, we could be right at the border.
We could be on.
You could be in a different city. So, all right.
And in a different state.
That would be impressive.
It would be.
And in a different country, even.
That's true. But we have the wall now, so.
Oh.
Okay. We could do it on a seesaw. How would that be?
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, Matt and Mike. How are you?
Oh, we're doing pretty good.
Good.
Well,
Good.
I think.
What are we talking today? What are we talking about today, Mikey?
Oh, we're talking about a
Bunnies, right?
whole bunch of stuff.
You're not Mikey.
Specifically,
sorry.
London.
Yep, London Booster. It's coming up, right, Jeff?
Ooh.
Yes. The La-Di-Da London booster will be released either in late October, early November. I'm still chatting with the publisher about an exact release date, but they want to do something big. And so we will get the folks at Bunny Banter more information as the time grows near. Of course, Jonathan and I have been finished with the London deck for 8 months?
Yeah.
About 8 months. Yeah, we wrapped it up. I wrapped up the writing early in the year, maybe January, and Jonathan finished up the art soon thereafter.
Yeah, so it's a very exciting time for everyone.
Yeah.
As I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, as of the release of this episode, the information from London Booster is public information, correct?
Yes, I am officially releasing all information that I'm releasing.
Yay.
Yes.
Which is all of it except for the bunny bits is what I have.
Oh, really? I've got the bunny bits right here.
There you go. That'll be your job to release, I suppose.
All right. So,
So,
Mike, what's your first question?
Our first question. Well, I gotta look now. I don't remember what our first question is.
I can get it.
Put me on the spot here. Oh yeah, we want to talk about Bunderground Stations, specifically what they do.
Yeah, and for those watching on the YouTube as opposed to the other podcast sites, I will put up the images of the Bunderground Stations now.
Excellent. That's pretty fancy, by the way, for all of you listening out there, that he can put the pictures up. That's nice. That's very fancy. Which one did you choose?
I actually have them on a cycle. It's
okay,
showing all of
fair
them.
Ooh.
All right. Well, I'll start, and I'll tell you about the mechanics of the Bunderground Station, and then Jonathan will follow up with the art. The Bunderground Stations, first off, are the first horizontal Killer Bunny quest cards that we've ever introduced. And although we've used horizontal cards for Jupiter and for Odyssey, we have never introduced one until now into Quest, and I'm very excited about it. And it has a particular purpose. So when playing Killer Bunnies, we've all experienced the game where there are just a few really high-powered bunnies, a bunny triplet, a pink gleeful, the red and pink timids, and robot bunnies. Oh no, not yet. Sorry, I meant super bunnies.
You got the super
Supers are really good, and then the super
specialty.
the super pink and
Yeah.
red are just outrageously powerful, and there you go. Now there are a few mechanics designed so that you don't always own the bunny. There's bunny block bid, which was introduced in the original, really, so that the same person doesn't always have the bunny with the halo. But it's been used more now as a I want the best bunny sort of thing. But what Bunderground Stations do is they allow you to place a bunny in the Bunderground Station. Now, that's not something you'd want to do on purpose. So there are bunnies that have an Oyster card. Now, if you don't know this, an Oyster card is what you use to get around London. And we're calling them Oyster cracker cards.
Okay.
So that the City of London doesn't come after us and and demand we change it. So what you do is you take the most powerful bunny. Let's say the pink super bunny.
Sure, let's go with pink.
I think that's a really powerful bunny,
Mhm.
which, by the way, I don't believe I've ever heard commented on Bunny Banter.
Yet, yet.
We
Well,
like
yeah,
to block it out of our minds.
Yes, well, you know. And so what you do is there's a card called the Oyster Cracker Bunny Modifier.
Mhm.
And what you do is you put it under the most powerful bunnies. It's not a good thing to have under your bunny. It's something that you want to put under someone else's powerful bunny. So here's the thing. The Bunderground Stations are numbered 1 to 12.
1 through 10 right now.
Well, 1 through 10 in this deck.
Yes.
And then 11 and 12 will be in
The next one.
the next one, the cake batter.
Yeah.
Okay. So anytime someone rolls the red die, then if the Bunderground Station is out, for instance, Bunderground Station number 1 is called Sarson's Corner. And so if it's out on the board, well, out on the table, and somebody rolls a 1 on the red die, then a bunny that has an Oyster Cracker bunny modifier can be moved to the Bunderground Station. So it's good to own a Bunderground Station, and then you put the Oyster Cracker cards under your opponent's best bunnies, and it moves them to you. Of course, it doesn't always stay with you, because the next time the red die is rolled, it could be you could roll a 4, and then whoever owns the Liverpool Station gets the bunny. So it's a way of moving very powerful bunnies to other players so that they don't die. They don't die. They don't get hit by a train or anything and die.
No sudden deaths here.
But it's a lot of sharing the wealth, because there are games where it gets nearly impossible to kill even a regular bunny with 12 clover, 14 clover, 20 clover, and maybe the nanny doesn't have to feed and is almost impervious to weapons. Well, it shouldn't be owned by the same person all the time. What do you folks think about that?
I think it's a very exciting mechanic. It looks like in London we're getting 3 of the Oyster Cracker modifiers, which is...
That's correct. And 1 more in cake batter.
1 more in cake batter. And will that be the end of them?
One never knows.
One never know. For now.
But there are bunnies that have built-in Oyster Cracker cards. Surely you noticed.
I did notice that. I wasn't going to bring it up though, because I didn't know if it was public information. But yes, that's also exciting there.
Plus, the new set of promo cards that will come out this year are called Oyster Bunnies, and they all have an Oyster Cracker card.
Mm-hmm.
So
It's a very exciting mechanic. I expect it to create some interesting interactions where, usually for all simple cases, oh look, there's a high target bunny like the pink lethal, I need to kill that bunny. But instead you might consider, oh, it has an Oyster Cracker on it, maybe it's not best for me to kill it, maybe it's best for me to try play cards that roll the red die, and I'll get an opportunity to steal it perhaps.
that's interesting you should mention that, Matthew. Just how many cards do roll the red die?
I can open up my database here. So I'll get that, and Mikey, you can ask something perhaps.
Well, I just have to say first, this is really cool because I'm just imagining being in a 2-player game with Matthew and him winning like he does a lot of the time. Or at least
Really?
in the head.
Interesting.
And being able to use this would be great. Imagine if you had all of them. Goodness.
Well, Bunderground Stations do join the game immediately. When they're drawn, they get placed immediately into the bunny circle. They
Yep.
don't take up a space. I'm using finger quotes. They don't take up a space, so that's why they're horizontal, so that they can visually be different.
Huh.
And it's not a guaranteed. There's a few things you have to have the bunny modifier, you have to have the Bunderground Station, and you have to roll the right number.
Yep.
It's kind of, I mean, if you got 2 or 3 Bundergrounds across 2 or 3 players, you can play it very passive aggressive. It's like, oh, I didn't steal it. Whoever rolled the dice stole it. It's a very passive aggressive way of playing the game.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I must admit, I don't understand this word passive. You speak of. I don't have that option when I play, so.
Well, yeah. Every time that we play with Jeff and Jonathan, they like to attack us.
They do. Everyone does. So really, even if another player had a Bunderground Station and a 4th player lost their bunny to that Bunderground Station, we would get blamed.
And nothing to do with us.
Because we invented it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So we'd get bombed. That whole, I heard your podcast on the whole passive aggressive, passive play. Yeah, that doesn't really apply to us.
Yeah, well, when I listened to that podcast, the first thing I thought of was, well, it really depends on what kind of cards I get.
True.
Because sometimes I'm like, I'm playing with some very serious players. I have to be very aggressive,
Mhm.
and there's no cards that will support that, and I'll just sit there and be moneyless for the next hour.
Well, my general strategy is to assess the personalities of the players that I'm playing with, and if they are in any way weak, I will exploit them.
It's a very strong
Yes, my
aggressive strategy.
My strategy is the aggressive strategy.
Hey, that
that's
works.
That's also a good manipulator. Not a manipulator. That's a negative term.
I think it's a lovely term. I like it.
Hey,
No
negative
one
terms are allowed.
manipulates during gameplay like me. I'm a master manipulator.
I know people trust Jeff's opinions about the game.
Well, I don't lie about the rules.
No, you don't.
I just make them a deal they can't refuse.
Yeah.
You know,
Without big
I-
consequences, they can't
I
refuse.
make them a deal. I just spell it out for them, and I let them know how I feel very strongly about this. Now, it's always so much fun, but we can't just... And no one expects us to play passively. They actually want us to basically, steer for the center of the sun and put the warp engines on full. I mean, that's...
I've also seen a game where everyone's having a great time and Jeff sits quietly, not attacking anybody, and ends up winning the game because no one's paying attention to him as he gathers all the carrots.
If there's one thing I can't stand, it's when no one's paying attention to me.
So then
Anyway,
you make them.
I'd like Jonathan to comment on the artwork
Well,
for the Bunderground Stations.
Are they done with the questions about the mechanics?
Oh, are you finished with the mechanic questions?
Let's see. I think not so much a mechanic, but more so a question on the relevance. With a very large amount of cards in the deck, how relevant? You've played a couple of games now, at least, of the next 9 boosters. How relevant do Bunderground Stations often be with only 4 Oyster Cracker modifiers and some other bunnies that are Oyster bunnies?
That's a good question. With all new cards and new mechanics, I have to admit, if you're playing the whole bunny, you're playing over 1,000 cards, well then the frequency of any particular mechanic coming up are pretty low. But one of the things that I've tended to do is I start with Conquest and play up to where we are. So our normal gameplay, if we have folks over and we get a small group together for an evening, not a full day, but just an evening, would be Conquest through Pumpkin. And soon it'll be Conquest through London. And with that amount of cards, I think it's a good mechanic to go for. I might even say try blue, yellow, red, violet, London. Yeah, and it's a way of tailoring it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm a huge fan of Killer Bunnies, but sometimes it isn't appropriate to play the whole game, depending on how much time you have and who the players are.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay. It's up to you. I think it's up to the person running the game how relevant they'll be.
Mhm.
There you go. So yeah, let's go into Jonathan's discussion on
Yeah.
the artwork, because I really like the artwork here. I think it's great. I like all of Jonathan's artwork, but I love the story that's happening in these Bunderground stations.
Oh, the story. So, what should I talk about here? So Jeff came up with the name of the cards.
Mhm.
And of course, we wanted to draw, the original stations, do a little spin-off of them and whatnot for the stations that they're named after. But the characters didn't come till later. London has a lot of locations. I'm using air quotes myself now. They have a lot of locations throughout the game because there's a lot of really cool locations in London. And my job is to make them fun. And after a while, a building is a building, and it can't really be fun. The one that is really fun in this game that Jeff really likes is Canary Worf.
Yep.
If you look at that one, it's actually Worf with a whole bunch of canaries. But if you look at the background, it's actually Canary Worf. So I did all the stations without the bunnies, and we finished the game that way. We sent that into Ultra Pro without the bunnies, and I was talking to Jeff. I'm like, there's no action here. There's no bunnies here. There's no pop.
Right, we needed more.
We needed more, and so I came up with, well, let's add some bunnies to it. And that's kind of where we just started. Let's just add some bunnies or a character or something like that. And we went through I went through a whole bunch of ideas in my head on what we were going to do. At one time, it was going to be like following Sarson, or not Sarson, Kabbalah, as he went from station to station, or I was going to add Kabbalah and Weil and Rooney, and they were going to go traveling together, or they were going to. There was also somebody was going to take a package and hand it off to a different bunny every frame. A lot of different things. We talked about, we discussed, we brainstormed on.
For the record, none of my suggestions made the final cut. Go on, John, because that's Jonathan's department. I just make a few suggestions on art, but he has the final say, and it always turns out great, so I don't mind. But
so yeah, I came up with this idea, and I was driving. I commute to work. It's about an hour drive to get home from work, and I just thought about this and got really excited about it. It kind of morphed a little bit, but it's a little love story it's kind of a matchmaking story. If you follow our little older gray bunny, she kind of manipulates these two, not manipulates, we don't like that. Oh, you like that word.
I like you don't like it. Influence.
She introduces these two together, and it helps them along in their relationship. It took different, how far do they go along their relationship? How did they meet and whatnot? And how involved is she, and whatnot? So there's a lot of recurring images throughout there. And like, for example, I wanted to have in the Oxfish Circus, when they actually get a little intimate, it was always going to be under an umbrella. And so I had to go back and add the umbrella to all the other images.
Oh, yeah.
So he's actually holding the umbrella in the very first image, or the first time that you see him. And he's holding the umbrella all the way through the entire deck.
Wow.
And for the record, everyone carries an umbrella in London.
Yeah.
There you go. It's just overflowing with thematic flavor. It's amazing. I don't know how you do it, Jonathan, but all of your artwork is
And of course,
Absolutely incredible.
there's two more coming.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Does the
And I
story continue?
The story does continue with the three of them.
Oh, wonderful.
Should I tell them or just let them tease them that they're coming?
There's something else on its way. That's all you get.
Is it a Kinder Bunny?
That's all you get.
I'm a big fan of Kinder Bunnies.
But there's also a lot of hidden things throughout the background too. I don't know if you've noticed it.
A little bit, yeah.
Let's see if well, Sarson's stuff, or Sarson's corner. Can I tell them the inside joke there? Of course, it's the Sarsons from what's that structure called?
Stonehenge.
Stonehenge. But the wall in front of Sarson's corner is actually Jeff's wall in front of his house.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
So, and Stratford, there's a big sculpture in front of the Stratford station that is metal.
Well, actually, I think Jonathan's gotten ahead of himself. If you pull up one of the underground maps of London, the red or central line is the one that we're kind of doing the parody on, and you'll find a lot of the stations are very, very close. Like Stratford became Stratfjord, and
Yes.
Mile End became Smile End. And so they are real stations. I've been to every one of them, and it was very nice to be able to parody them. And the art that Jonathan drew is based on actual photographs of each one of those stations
That you took.
that I took 2 summers ago.
Yeah.
So, they came out fantastic. And again, if you ever do the London tour, I'm sure you'll take a picture in front of every station, much like I did.
That's very exciting.
Now, Jeff, you know this one. There's a little O. There's this shop like that out there.
The O.
It's called the O.
Yes.
So in Stratford, there's a store in the back window, and it's got an O on it. And it's actually, as Jeff told me, there's a store in London called the O.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look on card number, hold on, wait, where's my?
We have all the cards here.
1295, the Tower Bridge. There's 3 girls with little bags, and one of them has the O on her bag.
Cool.
Wow.
So she shopped there.
Would you folks have noticed that?
Probably not for a while.
Great, because if there's time, we want to do card origins as well.
Yeah.
But okay. One last thing I'd like to point out on the Bunderground stations is, for instance, the Smile End has sort of a green line going through stop 3.
Mm-hmm.
That means there'll be a connecting Bunderground station.
The green
Oh.
And a green line of Bunderground stations. And so does Holcorn and Tottenham Court Road. So more coming. There's always a little something
A
hidden
little
away
hint
in
there,
there.
yeah. Is there mechanical significance for adjacent underground stations?
Oh yes.
Right now?
Oh yes.
I think they might have been. I just looked at the cards this morning, so they might have been. I might have missed it and forgotten it already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You have to know which one's next. It's always nice.
That's oh yeah. I'll think of it. Anyways,
That's okay.
I looked.
There may be a card that says to move all bunnies to an adjacent Bunderground station if it exists in the bunny circle.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
the
just
one I
more
was
of a-
trying to think of. I couldn't remember which one it was.
More convenient just to have it written.
For sure.
So.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think Bunderground stations are going to be very useful in helping share the wealth of
There
this
you go.
game.
It's always exciting when we get more mechanics that share the wealth to
Yeah.
balance out the extra super pinks that we don't like to think about.
You know, it's funny. Jonathan's reminding me of a card technique, if I can share it with the audience, that we've used in the past. When we've done the entire bunny or a larger game, what we've done is for the newest 2 booster decks, we'll shuffle all the cards, but then we'll split the cards in half because you never get to all of them. and then shuffle the newest boosters into just half of the deck. And that way the frequency does increase as far as the newer cards, which everybody always likes to play the newest cards. And that's a technique we've been using for a few years, isn't it?
That's very smart, because then, yeah, you get to see all the new cards. Very exciting. I'll probably do that once London comes out with my full set.
Give it a try.
There we go.
So will you play London first in a full game of Killer Bunnies, or will you go maybe Conquest forward?
Definitely in a full game, since I don't have Conquest by itself.
Ah,
I don't.
okay.
For that purpose, you know, playing with something besides starter or full set, I usually use Remix.
Fair enough.
Maybe
That
I
would
can
be
mix
good.
into Remix. Who knows? But
Actually, I think that'd be a great idea.
yeah, I might try it. I looked up the number of cards that roll the red die for those interested. By my database, it says 63 cards roll the red die.
That actually matches my database as well.
Hey,
Well
there
done.
we go. It's correct now. Okay. So I think we extensively covered Bunderground Stations there. So moving on to the next topic I want to discuss, the British bunnies. And I will put up a little slideshow of all the British bunnies on the YouTube video. So a few questions I had here. First, when designing the British bunnies, was it what was the reasoning for adding another bunny like the specialty or like the celebrity? Was it more of a thematic thing, or was there some balance considered as well?
We definitely want to keep it thematic and make something very, very special for the deck. As time goes on, we really do want each deck to have a theme. Right now we're doing theme, flavor. And the point of the flavor deck following a theme is that it kind of picks up the slack. We only have 55 spots when we design a deck, and sometimes we really do run out of room, and I'm using the finger quotes. And so, for instance, in this one, we didn't want to put all 12 Underground Stations in because we needed those spaces for other cards to make the mechanics work. So that's why it always worked out well. But no, it was definitely thematic was our motivation.
Yeah, I really like these British bunnies. They create some, you know, the artwork's amazing, of course. The themes that they cover are very well done.
Now, did you get all of them, or did you have to look some of them up?
I haven't looked them up yet, but I got most of them. Mikey probably got more.
Which ones did you know?
Let's see. I have to look at them now.
Well, we can
Bunny-
go over each one of them and
Okay, well, let's do that.
okay, so did you guys know who Bunny Adder is?
Bunny Adder. I don't think I knew
Is
that
it-
one.
Oh, it's from a classic British television show called Black Adder. Let me play you a little bit of the Black Adder theme, if I can.
Go ahead.
And who plays that character?
Sounds familiar.
Well, that's just a piece. It's the Rowan Atkinson plays Blackadder, the actor who plays Mr. Bean.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely worth catching that if you have a chance.
We'll have to do that. There we go, Mikey. We have more British television, so it's a marathon.
Yay.
Jeff likes a lot of British TV. So obviously the next one is the Prime Minister.
That's Winston.
Yes. And so originally when Jeff and I talked about these bunnies, he wanted me to put May in there.
Yes, we talked about Theresa May, but
My comment was that the way that the politics are going is that she may not be the Prime Minister by the time the deck comes out.
very prophetic. Of
Yes,
you.
it was kind of.
Yes, if your audience doesn't know much about British politics, And I don't want to make I don't want to start a whole thing, but I thought the woman was fantastic. I really enjoyed her as a statesperson. I thought she did a great job. She certainly deserves a lot of credit, but she is no longer prime minister. So
Yeah.
we made the right call. We chose a classic prime minister.
Yeah, a very well-known character in history. So
Very good.
the next one, how do you pronounce that, Jeff?
Sarsenok.
Isn't that an arson?
I know it's still pronounced Sarsenok.
Sarsenok.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's really a Scottish word for beloved.
Okay.
Is what I'm told. And it's from the television series Outlander, which is currently running. A current reference. Here's a little music from Outlander.
A song of a lass that is gone. Say, could that lass be I? Mary of soul, she sailed on a day over the sea to the sky.
That's just a little bit from Outlander. It's actually based on a classic Scottish instrumental piece called the Skyboat Song. Anyway, great show, and I thought she deserved to be a bunny. It's about a woman who travels through time and finds a Scotsman to fall in love with in the 17th century.
I haven't watched it yet.
Way back then. Yes, quite good. Quite modern, too. So, then we move on to the Prince and Duchess.
Yeah.
The royal family, the last wedding, I believe.
Don't point to me with Little Bunny. Did you guys get the Little Bunny Brits?
I didn't.
I didn't get that one either.
Oh, my.
So it's from Little Brits.
Little Britain.
Little Britain.
Oh, I know Little Britain.
And this is one of the skits that they do.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Here's a little bit from Little Britain.
Oh, yeah.
It's a comedy show from Britain. It's hilarious, and they
It's
do
still active right now. It's still on the air, isn't it?
Oh, it's on the air, but they're not doing any more episodes. It was good about 10 years ago it was running, and this is Lou and Andy from Little Britain.
Okay.
Very cool.
Should have got that one.
Yes. Again, I recommend all of these shows, but
I don't.
Uh-oh.
So you have to sit
Okay, so not necessarily these specific bunnies and this specific deck, but there have been some references throughout the time I've worked on bunnies that Jeff said this is based on this show, whether it's a movie or a series
or a book.
Or a book.
Yeah.
Not necessarily a book, but I've had to do research to get the character correct. And not all of them are worthy. I had to watch some really bad shows, and Jeff doesn't understand what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're saying. What was the worst one? Which one stands out as a test of your patience?
Time Stalkers. Now, there was one that was worse than Time Stalkers.
Time Stalkers was the best movie that came out in 1986. I'm just going to go on record and say that. It's a time travel movie with Lauren Hutton. Fantastic.
And we've got 3 or 4 cards based on it now.
I loved it. You hated the movie.
It was okay. Oh no, the one with the Phineas and August and
44.
Yeah, that one was pretty bad.
That was The Mysterious Stranger.
Yes.
You didn't like that one either.
Not at all. That was a Mark Twain movie.
Yeah, it was about Mark Twain.
Yeah. It was a really poorly acted show.
I disagree. Clearly. I believe I had to buy him dinner after that one. Okay.
So I did watch some Little Bunny or Little Britain, and specifically these two guys, and they don't really have a lot of redeeming value, but they're hilarious. They are kind of funny, but they're yeah.
Yeah.
So, anyways, moving on to something better.
I was about to say, speaking of disagreements, a little bit off topic. Have we resolved the disagreement between Maple Sparkle?
No,
Oh no.
Let's discuss Maple Sparkle for a minute, shall we?
no.
I'm going on record as saying there will be a Maple Sparkle booster deck for Killer Bunnies. The people have spoken, Jonathan.
The people have spoken.
The people have posted, and they've spoken.
Okay, so I've seen the posts. I've seen the pictures. Thank you for the evidence. Maple glows and Maple shines quite well. Maple might radiate, but it really doesn't sparkle.
But the word sparkle itself sparkles. And so it is better for advertising to say Maple Sparkle than Maple Glow.
Can we tell them what the other fans call Maple Sparkle?
I don't think it's appropriate for your audience.
Okay.
Now we have to say I have to throw Jeff under the bus a little bit and say
Well, no, you don't have to, Mikey.
The statement Mikey's about to say is, well,
That's
actually
like
no,
when
I know what Mikey's going to bring up. Actually, I agree.
When someone starts a sentence with all due respect, you know they're about to disrespect you.
Yes.
Very rarely do I think Jeff made a slight mistake in a booster, but I agree with Mikey on this one. So go ahead, Mikey.
Oh.
we did the posts were by the request of Jeff.
Oh, you were talking about that. Okay,
That's
I thought you
what
were.
I was gonna say.
Okay. Okay.
Well, that's
That's
okay.
what's wrong, Jeff.
Everyone knew that.
They were not by our own initiatives.
Since that's what you brought up, I'm going to bring up something else. Mikey and I were slightly disappointed that there is no Keeping Up Appearances reference in the British Bunnies.
Yes.
Keep it up.
Keeping up appearances.
Yes.
Here, I'll play you the theme song.
Oh, it's a classic.
Oh yes, I know this one.
Yeah.
Yes. What is her name?
Hyacinth.
Bucket.
Bucket. Yes.
Bouquet.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so we were disappointed that we could not find the Keeping Up Appearances reference in London.
Well, I have to admit, now I watched the first season with Hyacinth Bouquet, and I found it to be pretty dated. And again, you talk about number of spaces and number of things. We of course tried never to double up. In other words, only one Doctor Who reference, only one Harry Potter reference. I'm sorry, Keeping Up Appearances did not make the cut.
Oh, sad day.
Oh well.
There may be a second London deck. You never know, but
There you
I
go.
think by the time that rolls around, there'll be so much more to talk about.
For sure.
Definitely.
Let's see, what was there? There was something about British Bunnies I wanted to mention. I think, I could be wrong on this, but I think London Booster has the most bunnies out of any booster besides boosters that are like the size of a starter deck. So obviously we're not going
Actually,
blue.
that matches my data. Well done.
Oh well.
We have
Yeah.
6. This one has
London
9.
Booster has 11 bunnies by my counts. 10 of them being the British Bunnies. One of them I don't believe we'll get to in this discussion.
Well, there are 9 British bunnies, but then
Oh yeah,
there's
10, 10, but
Clippers.
yeah, 9 British Bunnies, and then yep.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, there are a few. You're absolutely right. The ratio was starting to dip a bit, and I wanted to make sure that it was playable. Like I said, if you just add the British to, for instance, the starter with the red booster deck, I wanted to make sure the ratio bunnies was high.
There you go.
Indeed.
Now, did you get the rest of the references for the bunnies?
Let's see.
We stopped on.
Detective
The only one-
Bunnies?
We didn't get was Wonderful. Detective Bunnies is Sherlock, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
Wonderful Bunnies. I didn't get that one. I got the other two. Besides.
I recognize the artwork, but I couldn't remember where it was from on Wonderful.
It's a movie from the late 80s called A Fish Called Wanda.
Ah.
Okay.
There you
I
go.
thought it was good. You liked that one, didn't you?
That was a good movie.
That was a very good movie. A lot of famous people: Jamie Lee Curtis, John Cleese, Kevin Kline.
Yep.
Ooh,
They're all in there.
There
Did you
go.
get the last one?
Yes, it's the Harry Potter Griffin Bunnies.
Indeed.
And
Yes.
did you notice that there is a yellow ball with
Yes,
red
that was very exciting. Now we discussed that in a previous Bunny Banter when we saw the previews for some of these cards. This was one of those, and that's a very exciting mechanic for stealing a triplet bunny. Ooh, that's gonna feel bad for that opponent.
And then, of course, we do have the specialty red bunny, which was the Day Trippers.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's based on a TV show called Red Dwarf,
Okay.
which it's a space comedy. I don't know.
You don't like it.
I'm not a big fan of that show. Jeff, I've watched it because Jeff likes it, and I'm like, okay.
Yeah, Day Trippers is a interesting bunny, I think. I don't have it up on the video here because I didn't prepare it. But it's sort of similar to oh, why am I blanking right now?
Lonely Ranger.
Lonely Ranger, of course. Yeah, it's similar to that,
I
but
thought you knew this game.
I know this game. I flank every once in a while. I would have gotten it.
That's okay, Matthew.
Yeah.
I'll let that one slide. I won't throw you under the bus like Mikey wanted to do to me.
But yes, this one's very similar to Lonely Ranger, which is interesting because it's a double red bunny, and it roams around the Bunderground Stations numerically. That's
Yes, it
very,
does.
very interesting mechanic that makes the Bunderground Stations more relevant there.
Mhm. It does. I don't know if you've noticed, but before the break, so up to Onyx, every bunny color as a single was represented as some sort of bunny with a power. For instance, the blue was the Lonely Ranger, and the green was Yoda. What was the title?
Doggo Bunny.
Dago Bunny.
Dago Bunny. And Pinky Tuscahero.
Yep.
And the Brundle Bunny was in the
Yeah.
pod. That was the Jeff Goldblum look.
So
And
now you're
since-
doing the same with double bunnies.
That is correct. That is correct. So General Sal is out, and
He's double yellow.
he's double yellow.
Double orange is
Pufftastics.
Pufftastics.
Pufftastics. Oh, I love that image. Treadsters is the blue.
Yep.
So they'll all be out. They're all planned. They're all mapped out. They're all coming. And there you go.
Very exciting. Are we going to see triplets eventually?
Of course you will. Already in the plan.
That's
Sure.
scary. Triplets with special abilities added onto it. Reminds me of a certain extra super pink bunny.
It does.
That's a
Now, keep
scary
in
one.
mind that Day Trippers is a bunny in the London deck, but it's not a British bunny.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
it
did
is
notice
actually-
that.
It's two red bunnies.
Hmm.
So you could combine this with any of the other red bunnies to make a triplet.
Yeah, or
Oof.
the red pawn, which is
Oh, the red pawn.
even
Or
easier.
half red bunny.
Or a half red bunny.
Or half red bunny. Yes, plenty of things to do.
Oh yeah. Unlike Lonely Ranger, which, you know, if you think Lonely Ranger usually helps your opponents more in standard situations, I expect Day Trippers to be a bit higher power level in that, you know, if your opponents, first of all, don't have Bunderground Stations, they might not. So it only helps the players with the Bunderground Stations. And second of all, if you have the red pawn and your opponents don't, then all of a sudden you already have a much bigger advantage to have the Day Trippers rotate to you than to someone else. And
Well,
perhaps your opponents
do
won't want to
agree.
kill Day Trippers because it will continue rotating.
I agree that first, the red pawn becomes far more powerful when you include the London deck.
Yeah.
I mean, Witch's Spirit, Mad Donalaith Bakery aside, now that you can control that role, you can control where a lot of bunnies that have Oyster Cracker cards are going. Red pawn, very, very important. Two red pawns, even better.
How about 4 red pawns?
Well, That is quite an almond comment you have there, and I'm sure we'll discuss that nutty comment in a crazy nutty deck coming up soon.
Ooh.
Yeah, that was what the first Funny Banter episode was on. Can we
Oh
justify
yes. Oh
4
yeah.
red pawns?
Oh
And
yes. I
looks
took
like we might be
notes.
able to.
I always take notes during Bunny Banter.
Well, that's very
Wonderful.
exciting, yeah.
He's taking notes now.
That's right.
Uh-oh.
I'm taking notes now.
Now I'm scared.
Oh,
That was the British bunnies. A very
Yes.
exciting mechanic.
We
Let's
also have four new carrots coming
4
out.
new carrots. That's
Yeah.
next thing. So the reason I
Nice
bring up the
segue, sir.
carrots, I'm going to get in trouble here. This is a little bit of a controversial topic among the community. So adding 4 carrots to the deck. When we found out about that in the Discord, I'm all for it. I like all of Jeff's ideas. I'm completely biased. But some people in
Thank
the
you.
Discord were disappointed that we were getting more carrots mainly for 2 reasons. The first would be extended game length, which I would tend to say is not that valid of a complaint since you could always lower the number of carrots that you're playing with. But the other complaint that has some substance to it would be that there are less playable cards in the London deck because the carrots are in there. There's the 51 cards and then the 4 carrots rather than 55 playable cards, which is typical of several boosters. But it's just some. Jeff, would you like to respond in any way to the controversy?
Absolutely. I would like to respond to that. I guess I would have to summarize my reaction to that as Boulder Dash. Complete Boulder Dash. No, first of all, you're absolutely correct. If your game is running long, or you start the game and you only have a few hours, I believe the advice in the books are to start everyone off with 2 or 3 carrots. Why not? Or simply take carrots out of the game. That's up to you. I prefer the earlier one because you can always use the carrots you start the game with to trade. It's like money. It's a commodity. You can use it to trade. But as far as usable cards, we battle that every time we design a deck. How many cards are playable? How many are in the game? How many aren't? And that's a tough balancing act. Certainly, there's never more than 4 in a booster deck as far as carrots go.
Yeah.
And we found that's the optimal number. But also keep in mind that a lot of players like the more carrots or a variety of carrots to use. And for this one, we've included 2 numbered carrots, and we haven't had them since, I think, the end of Conquest.
That sounds right.
Fantastic.
Well, Fantastic had Kinder carrots. So
Yep.
numbered carrots stopped at the end of Conquest, and now we're starting up again. And we're also we're making headway on Kinder carrots, and we're making headway on numbered carrots. And I will give out, can we give a preview of this fact?
Sure.
Carrots will continue to come out.
okay.
Yes, I
New
think we
carrots
knew
will
that from the live stream, yes.
Yes, they will continue.
Yes.
Well,
Was
they know that
80 the final number? Was it?
80 is where we are now. Before I have not written the Meta Bunny booster deck. That is the next project, and that's quite a ways off. And it will contain carrots, of course. It will contain quite a few,
Oh yeah.
to be honest. And there you go. So we will probably top off at letter Z and 100.
There you
Wow.
go. That's quite a few. So that's
To give you an idea, Jeff and I work months and years in advance. And right now I have drawn all of the lettered carrots all the way through Z.
mhm.
I don't tell you when they're coming out, but I have drawn all of the lettered carrots. From this one, London has the O and P, and for Q through Z are all completed.
Wow.
That's a very exciting time. I'm going to share with those listening. You mentioned dividing carrots at the start of the game. Among the Discord community, we carefully design some quote-unquote house rules. I call them house rules just because that's literally what they are, but everyone usually agrees on them. To end the game early, and that would be to divide the remaining carrots out at that point, and that also works quite well.
Yeah,
Uh,
we've done that before as well. Is that we give ourselves 2 or 3 hours, and if we're on hour 4, and we need to end the game, we'll just divide up the carrots evenly throughout the rest of the players.
exactly, yeah. So that all works.
And that's the cool thing about house rules is we've made the core game, but you can change your rules. Like my cousins don't play with terrible misfortunes because they don't like them.
That's interesting. They must have not experienced the extra super pink bunny then. I sure like it when misfortune is drawn then.
Sometimes we need those terrible misfortunes to pin the
Sometimes we do.
herd, so to
Yes,
speak.
house rules is another controversial topic that hasn't been addressed yet from Bunny Banter.
I'd like to address that. I would love to just make one statement about it, and I can't speak for Jonathan. I think I know his answer, but we'd be happy to come back and talk about that on another topic day.
For
But
sure.
let me just say that although Jonathan and I have developed this game many, many years, and we certainly have a vision, the way I answer fans when they write in about house rules is always the same. We absolutely appreciate you buying the game. Thank you very much for your patronage. How do you want to play the game? Are you enjoying the way you play the game? Of course you can. They say, can we do this? Yes, you can. Do whatever you like. And some of the ideas that people come up with are great. A lot of people look for the validation. You can play the game any way you want. I've played with groups that insist on using their house rules rather than my rules.
Yes. Jeff and I have been in situations where we've played with people that they don't know who we are.
Yeah, we do
wow.
this from time to time. It's really fun. Yeah.
Usually at conventions, we'll see people playing a game, and what's this game? Can we play with you? And they will teach us certain things, and we're thinking that's not how you're supposed to play the game.
But we don't say anything.
We don't say anything.
No.
That's their house rules, and so we just play with the way that they want to.
Sometimes they're pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes they're great.
But,
That's
Really?
very kind of you to not call them out on their incorrect rulings.
Hey, listen, I in a way, I get where you're going, but I disagree. Listen, folks, the thing about Killer Bunnies is it's a game designed to bring people together for a few laughs and some good times. And sure, there's rules because there has to be. It's an amazingly complex game at this point in time. But by all means, whatever makes your group go the easiest, whatever's fun and whatever makes the game go nice and smooth, as long as everyone's having fun, interacting in person with each other, that to me, that's the most rewarding part of it. Seeing all the pictures and hearing the stories over the years, that's the best part.
I completely agree, and I'm going to clarify my position. I agree with the use of house rules as long as all players unanimously agree on the rules used. In cases where I've been in back in the dark ages of the first year of me playing without knowing the rules, I was often in situations on the winning side of these situations where players would vote on rules. And it's like, oh, that card says it does that. I don't really like that. Let's vote that it doesn't do that.
Oh, I think I'd have to agree with you on
That becomes very toxic.
I don't mind majority rules, but I think I would need to know all the house rules before the game starts.
Yeah, for
I don't
sure.
like voting in the middle. I would agree with you.
We had a vote in the last couple of games, the last big games. There was one time we had a vote because it's like we came up with a very unique combination of cards.
Yes, that's true.
That we didn't have a bit for, and like if the moon was over there on that horizon, and it was a Tuesday, and you were wearing a green shirt.
Hold on, I'm taking notes. Green shirt, moon, horizon. Got it.
See, according to the
So it
Quest
was
card
just-
compendium, no.
And so it was a very lively. I mean, the people we were playing with were very serious players. We had a very lively conversation based on other rules, and so we had to go with the spirit of the card versus the technicality of the card.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this was whether or not his bunnies were going to live or not. So
Well,
I think I remember that moment in the live stream. I was trying to think of what it was. I'll have to go looking for it.
I would always say that when it comes to the rules for Killer Bunnies, we write 90% of the rules. That's our target, to write 90%, cover 90% of the situations in the rules and the bunny bits. And I'm not going to say we purposefully leave out 10% or that we're purposefully vague, but the God's honest truth is if we wrote every, I don't even think it'd be possible to write every possible bit into the bunny bits. I always felt someone else will do that later, and it won't be me. And I think it's become, it was never in the original design, but I think it's become one of the best parts of the game that when you get into that 10% area, that everybody gets to come together and discuss and cite, well, this card does this, and in the past you have cards that do this, and almost like a lawyer would go to court and say, well, we want
based on precedents.
Based on precedent, and we do that as well.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of neat.
That's basically what I do as well when I find a ruling that it's like, oh wait, this one hasn't been clarified as far as my sources say. So then I go through and say, well, mechanically it's very similar to this, this, and this card, and we know that these cards work this way, and so therefore the safest assumption would be that this card also works this way. I actually just did that in the Killer Bunnies Reddit. There was a question of, can weapon exchange be used when Rooney's Emporium is closed?
Can weapons exchange be used when Rooney's, well, between players, I would say
yes. Yeah, and that's basically what we came down to.
But not to get a weapon from the Rooney discard, I would say no.
It's a 2-for-1.
Right, but you're right, that's not in a bid anywhere.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there you go. By mechanical consistency, we were able to find the correct ruling, because that's ultimately what it came down to.
Yes. I'm waiting for someone to do Killer Bunnies as their doctoral thesis.
I've actually mentioned to several people that I've studied the game enough to do so.
Yeah, I don't know what the doctorate would be in. Horticulture, I'm thinking. But perhaps at that time we'll have a bunny bit Bible where somebody starts to write up, and I guess it'll just be interviewing us, I imagine, 2,000 hours worth of conversations and of course we'll contradict each other halfway through, so who knows if that'll ever happen, but I'd be interested.
Yeah, Mikey and I have mentioned writing a bunny banter catechism that demonstrates all of the official perspectives of bunny banter.
I think you should.
Yeah.
Eventually.
I'd like a signed copy when that gets published, please.
Will do. Not sure if it'll be published, but I'll get you a signed copy.
Fair enough.
Okay. Real quickly here. So we finished talking about carrots. I wanted to talk about.
I have a question about carrots.
Oh yeah.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, is the reference Carrot O Octavia? That looks like it reminds me of Ursula from The Little Mermaid, but I don't know how that would fit with the theme. So, what was your inspiration for that?
Well, O and P don't fit into the London theme.
That makes sense.
Well, actually not true. P does, but go ahead and O.
P?
Yeah, I'll explain that after you explain the O blunder.
Yeah, I think O, you had a different one for O.
Yes, often I tell Jonathan what I want.
And then I tell him what he's going to get.
It's the way we work. So I originally had said...
You wanted an octagon or something, or...
Yeah, some creature based on an octagon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No, wasn't good.
So yes, it is. It is roughly based on Ursula because if you have an oct, I was thinking you got to have 8 legs. It would
Yep.
either be a spider or a octopus.
Right, and we've done Doc Ock already, so he was
Yes.
out.
Well, he was in Jupiter.
Was he?
Yeah,
Yes,
and
he was in Jupiter.
And he was holding the yellow ball with the red stripe.
he was.
Ooh.
Yes.
Among other things. And a little artistic trick in here is that Ursula has a seashell as a necklace,
Yeah.
and Octavia has the conch as her necklace.
Aha. That's
I'd
awesome.
like to go on record as saying that I did not know that fact until just now.
Oh, wow.
I didn't know
didn't
until
notice
now
that. Now
either.
I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, the conch.
Wow.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah,
job.
there's a lot of references that Jeff doesn't know I do.
Yeah, I missed a memo somewhere, but okay,
Yeah,
well done.
there's a lot of references that I don't know I do.
Well, the next Carrot P, I'd like to talk about that one, Phineas. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is Voyagers. It was a time travel show that came out for 1 year in 1982.
This one was good.
Yeah, this is good. It's certainly worth watching, and that device he's holding is the time machine. And of course, Phineas did in one episode visit London.
What? He wasn't British.
Oh, he was a man of the world. He traveled.
Okay,
He was like a pirate.
gotcha.
But in one episode, he did visit London.
Okay.
So there you go. And that device, that time travel device he's holding, is the same one that, if you do follow me on Facebook, you'll see is usually in all the pictures.
And it's also on the image for Specialty Bunnies.
That's right. Phineas and Jeff are a specialty bunny.
No. The Omni. It's on you. The Celebrity Bunny.
It's on me on the celebrity
Oh,
bunny.
yeah. Yep.
And true. And Phineas and Jeff are a double celebrity bunny. And the design of the time machine is on the dated weapons. That's where the inspiration for the numbers and the green and the red window came from.
Oh, cool.
Wow.
Huh.
There you go. References
Yeah.
upon references. I'm always impressed how deep the references go.
Excellent. Did you get the reference for Carrot 42?
Carrot 42. My slideshow is cycling. I'm not looking at it right now. Hold on.
Oh, it's,
Well, he's named Doug. Do you know why we named
Doug.
Carrot 42 Doug?
I felt like I recognized it, but I didn't know where it's from.
Well, the writer, Douglas Adams, wrote
Okay.
a series of books called The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Oh, yeah, of course.
okay, yeah.
And I don't want to give anything away for folks who haven't read it yet, but the number 42 does come up quite often.
Ah, very
Yeah.
good. Yes. I knew I
And if you
recognized
look
it from
close-
somewhere.
If you look closely in the artwork, the badge that this constable is wearing is the face from Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. That's actually a bunny card.
Hitch Bunnies
Hitch
Guide.
Bunny Guide. Hitch
Yeah.
Bunny's Guide. Yeah,
Ah, yeah.
with the little tongue sticking out.
So you haven't made those connections, gentlemen?
I've only had these images for less than 12 hours.
Yeah, I've had them for
And?
about
And
5.
I'm not that quick.
I've not heard you mention Hitch Bunny's Guide in the funny banter yet.
Ooh.
Very powerful
that's
card.
an old card.
It's an old card, but it's a
That's
nice
Little Omega.
Oh, yeah.
powerful
That-
card.
Now, do you guys know the reference to Carrot 41?
Carrot 4. I do know that one. Because I saw the original Facebook post that Jeff made where it was sort of a leak where it's like, oh look, there's Carrot 41. And I can't remember how to pronounce his name now.
Ewan.
Ewan. Yeah, it's based off of him.
Yes, Ewan Bailey is a bagpipe aficionado and busker in the city of Glasgow, Scotland. Good friend of mine. He's wearing, those are the colors and pattern for his family, and he's an excellent bagpipe person.
And we got a concert right before we presented him that.
That is correct.
Card.
He played a concert for us right here in California, and we presented him with it. He's a relatively new Bunnies player, but was absolutely thrilled. So he said that he would be available. Now, I should mention this.
Okay.
Ewan said that he would be available if anyone would like to send him their card. He'd be happy to sign it and send it back.
Oh, that's
There you
cool.
go.
He's looking forward to doing autographs. I've already got 3 or 4 that I'm going to be sending to him for friends. So.
Sounds
awesome.
good. We're running short on time, but I want to talk about one specific card very briefly, since it's supposedly Jeff's favorite card from the set,
Yes.
Canary Worf. So let me read the card text
Canary,
here.
my
Maybe it's a
favorite.
very special, aggressive. Maybe use one spy player to eliminate either Daleks, dodgy bangers, soggy bottom, or tipsy phone boxes. So that's the 4 weapons that happen to be from London.
Yes, they are, as a matter of fact. And let me ask you this. Did you notice that they're listed on the Canary Wharf card in a different order than they appear in the deck?
I did notice that they're in alphabetical order.
Very good, sir. Very good.
I was wondering for a second when I first read it, I'm like, wait, why aren't they in the same order? But they're alphabetical, so that makes more sense.
Just wanted to point that out. As many people know, I'm a huge Star Trek fan. As a matter of fact,
Really?
yes, Jonathan, huge Star Trek fan.
I did not notice.
And although people ask me all the time which is my favorite Star Trek, I always answer the same way.
Go ahead.
I say I think they're all equally good. And so it's like asking someone who has 5 children, which is your favorite?
Billy. No. Jeff, if you guys don't know, Jeff and I met each other at a Star Trek fan club.
Wow.
Cool.
So way back in the day.
There we go. So we
That's how
have
we
Star
met.
Trek partially to thank for Killer Bunnies.
Yes.
There you go.
Specifically Star Trek Voyager.
Yes.
There you
It
go.
was Scorpion.
It was a Star Trek Voyager party. I don't remember the episode. We've tried to actually kind of figure out what day we met, but the closest we could get is October of 2001. And
Wow.
I don't know the date. But we love doing Star Trek references when they're reasonable.
This
when
has
they're,
3 references to it.
when they're there. Yes, go through the 3 references for this card.
So, as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of structures and buildings in this deck because London has got a beautiful architecture. This idea did come from Jeff. He wanted Worf with canaries. So, Worf, this is an upgraded version of Worf that appears originally in Time Worf.
Yep.
Which was in the Onyx deck,
Of course.
I think.
Of course it was in the Onyx
Okay.
deck.
Sounds right.
You haven't memorized?
No, I haven't. Not. And then the canaries are from Bird-like Warriors.
I bet they didn't know that, did they?
Did they
Did
know
know
that?
that.
You did?
We did know that because we talked on the phone with Jeff earlier this summer, and we
Okay.
talked a little bit about this card, so we actually knew those references.
If you look, and I don't know how well this is going to come out. When I draw cards, this 2-inch by 3-inch card is like zoomed in 1600% on my monitor. But if you look on the Canary Wharf, so in the background is actually a skyline of Canary Wharf. And if you look on the shoreline, right below Wharf's left hand is Frankenfurter
From the Time Worf card.
from the Time Wharf card.
Ah.
Very small.
He's very small, but there's a little silhouette of him hanging out.
Wow.
down
That's
Wow.
a really. I can't see it on my screen.
there.
That's it. But there's so many good images here. Surely, I as a Star Trek fan, and I just think it's funny. I think Jonathan did an excellent job. I already have this image on a T-shirt and a coffee mug.
Yes.
Oh wow.
But you can't deny the weakest link lady, the Anne, is great. You don't get to see the promo cards yet, but they are fantastically drawn. And Mary Berry is here with her soggy bottom. But I would say mechanically, although that was my favorite card image-wise, my favorite mechanically is Number Wang.
Oh yeah.
Another
Yeah.
horrible show.
Now, Number Wang.
Oh, I love Number Wing.
Have you seen Number Wang? On
I watched it
YouTube?
because you sent me the link. It was amazing.
Very good. And this card actually does
what it does.
What it does, it could pass for an episode of Numberwang. I have never played it in practice. It didn't come out in our 30th anniversary.
I think we're going to go to the second week.
Did it?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I didn't get to participate, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. Now we need to make a parody video of Numberwing and Killer Bunnies crossover.
There we go.
I think that would be awesome.
We'll talk more about Numberwing in a future episode, I'm sure. Brings me to the announcement. Since we barely got to any of the cards, because main focus of the discussion was, of course, the Bunderground Station and all of that. I think we're planning on the next 3 episodes to be more London discussion. So strategy discussion and mechanics discussion of all the new cards. So it should be a very exciting time for Bunny Banter.
Excellent. Well, we hope that we'll have an opportunity to come back and join you sometime.
Yes, for sure. We will have Jeff and Jonathan back at some point. At the very latest, at the release of Cake Batter. But hopefully before then.
Well,
Well, when did you say release? Oh, release. Okay.
the release of Cake Batter.
Yeah, so once that becomes...
You never know when that'll happen. I don't know.
I don't know. Well, I'll be done in a
Exactly.
couple weeks with Cake Batter.
Yes, actually, we're very close to being finished with it.
Oh, that's very exciting, yeah. So
Yeah,
once...
we worked way in advance, so.
Yes, for sure. So thank you, Jeff and Jonathan, for joining us in the Bunny Banter today. If anybody has any topic suggestions, obviously we'll be talking about London for the next couple episodes, but after that, if you have any topic suggestions, feel free to send them in, and anybody who would like to be a potential future guest is welcome to message me as well. Today we have been literally Jeff blessed. So Jeff, would you like to do the honors?
Jeff bless.
Jeff bless.
Yeah.